Now we're moving on to page 3. I essentially want to create a new layer for that page, just in case, as I was mentioning before, there's any issues, any errors. It's going to be a lot easier for me to step it back essentially. So I've double clicked on the actual layer itself and I'm going to name it page 3. And note that you can change the colours as well if you wanted to, if you're into colour coding, and it is quite helpful. So now making sure that I'm still selected onto there, I'm now going to create our 3 columns for this page. So I need to go over to the left hand side and basically start creating these columns. So I just drag it out the whole way, and again using the blue guides that appear for you to actually get you properly lined up would be helpful. So I'm just going to do all 3 of these very quickly, again using the blue guides as well. Now don't worry if you don't quite get it aligned quite correctly, you will have the opportunity to basically tweak this at another point as well. Because I can see from looking at mine straight away that my eyesight hasn't quite got it the way that I would have really have liked, but we're going to fix that, so don't worry too much. So at the moment I've got the columns reaching the full length of the page. In reality I don't really want that because I want to use elements within the page to create, you know, a different kind of look to it. So what I'm actually going to do is highlight each of them, and I'm just going to use these bounding corners to actually reduce the size of the columns. And I think I'll just kind of stop it round about there and I'll be quite happy with it at that point there. Just looking to reduce it down rather than changing the main angles. Again, using your guides the entire time. I can't stress how important it is to use these guides to make sure that the design of it looks accurate at the end of the day as well. So I'm quite happy with that at the moment. The only problem that I have is this second one seems to have done its own thing for some reason. So I'll obviously need to kind of fix that. So I'm just going to reduce this down so that I can kind of get it to where I can start manipulating that a wee bit easier. And then I'll just shorten it at this side as well. And again, using my guides here to make sure it's snapping in. And I can see this one's actually a little bit larger than I had intended. Okay, so just kind of double check that you're quite happy that the guides in your text box are actually aligned correctly. Once you're happy with them and you've got them in, now it's time to start getting our text and things in here. Now you can probably see here, I had mentioned before that there's this kind of red warning sign, and that's basically telling me that there's still text within here hidden basically. So an easy way to deal with that is basically get that information to extend over into your new page. So to do that, we would basically just click on this, and what will actually happen is you'll see it preloading that text, and then I can just click in here and that basically brings that up there as well. So we've got part of that main text that was preloaded through using Lorem Ipsum. Now I obviously want to extend all the way through my 3 columns, so I'm just going to insert some more of that type. So again, to bring that in, I can just do it with the preloading Lorem Ipsum by coming down to type and fill with placeholder text. And again, it's just kind of brought that over. And again, I'm just going to repeat that process until we've actually got our 3 columns with some text. And again, I can see that on this one it's telling us that there's overset text, so I'm going to make the most of that, swap over to my direction tool, click on it so that it preloads it, and then I'm just going to pop it into here, and there it is, it's already went in. And then I will just load up some more of that Lorem Ipsum text as well. And that's us essentially got our main text itself. But again, we want to make sure that the text is actually, you know, matching. At the moment, over here is one font and over here is Calibra. So I'm going to make sure that I highlight all of my text, and we'll just change this to Calibra. And just double check that it's matching in terms of font size. So font size as shown is 12, and I'm just going to make sure that over here I've also got it to 12. And that's actually, by the looks of it, because I've changed that, it's basically provided us with more overset text it's telling us. So we'll just pop it in there and that will sort that out. And again, I'm just going to go into all 3 columns and we'll just change that just now. So change into Calibra and doing the same here, just making sure. And Calibri. Okay, so that's got Calibri all the way. Again, I'm at my last column and I can see that I've still got overset text. Because this is just dummy text, it's not for a real article or anything, I could simply just delete some of that out if I wanted until I got rid of that warning sign. It's not going to make any difference, you know, if we were going to print this out or anything like that, because it is just kind of fake text, if you like, at the moment. Now, I've also formatted some of my text as well, just to kind of add a little bit of padding and kind of paragraph in here as well. So if you feel like your text needs that as well, then I recommend that you do that as well. Now back on to page 3, what I thought might be nice is if we again add another little drop cap to give us a little bit of practice at doing that. So again, I'm just going to highlight that first character there, come across to my paragraph area, and I'm just going to increase this here, and we're just going to do the same as on the last page and use number 4, and this one should be on number 1 as well. Okay, and that's a drop cap added in. Now we're going to actually move on and create our first pull quote from the magazine, and this can really be used to pull out important information or really important facts within an article itself. So to get started, I'm just going to move over to the text tool, and for the purposes of demonstration, I'm just going to find a section within the article itself that I want to basically pull out to make prominent. So let's say we wanted this little section here, so I would make sure that I was selected within that column next to that text, and I'm just going to create a quotation mark there. And then I'll say create another quotation mark here, and this is where our main pull quote, this would be our main text for this. Highlight it, I would then copy it, and then what I could do is just basically create another bounding box for it, and we're just going to basically paste that in there for the moment. And because I really want it to stand out, I obviously need to make it bigger, so let's have a look at how big we think might be big enough. So let's say we place it at 18 for the moment. Again, I'm going to go back to my selection tool so that I can just fix my box, because I increased the size, which has meant it's obviously just a little bit too big for the information that was in there. And I think again, for the purposes of demonstration, I'm just going to change the colour of this actual text so that it becomes really noticeable. So again, going up to the area for your changing your colours for your text, I'm going to actually change that to red for the moment. And then taking the actual box itself, why don't we just place it somewhere in the middle of the actual 2 columns itself. Now as you can see, it's now kind of blocking other text information within here. So we need to essentially get this box to basically bound and wrap around the other information. So to do that, all we do is come over here to text wrap, and then we're going to actually get it to wrap around bounding box, and then we should actually see it wrap around. Now you may find that you need to kind of tweak it ever so slightly to make changes so that it kind of flows a little bit nicer, and you can do that using the different options that you have here. So for top offset, bottom and left and right offset, that will be subjective things, so see how you get on in creating your first pull quote there. Once you have created the first pull quote, we're on to the final stages of page 3, and that's just essentially basically creating our main heading, a subheading and the author's name for the article. So again, I'm just going to take a text type tool, I'm just going to create that there, and I'm just going to input here heading template, And I'm just doing this obviously for the sake of basically creating a demonstration for you. Obviously later on down the line when it comes to creating your own magazines, you will obviously have correct information in here with proper headings and things and articles. So I'm going to change my actual font again, make sure I'm on the correct font type that I selected for my main headings, which was Impact. And then I'm just going to increase this till I feel that I'm quite happy with the size of it. And I'm fairly happy at 35 for the moment. So I've got that there. And then what I'm just going to do is kind of drag it over to a point where I feel like it's working for me. So I'm going to leave it there for the moment, and then what I'm going to do is create another subheading one. So again, to make my life quicker, I can use on a Mac the Option key and then just duplicate it by dragging it down, and then I may kind of offset the box itself. And now we're going to change the actual text itself, and I'm going to change this to read as subheading. And again, I've obviously got that offset text just purely because I was a bit lazy and I never deleted out the template section. So I'm just going to go back into that, take that out, and then again I can double click on the handles and I can alter that ever so slightly there as well. And then from there I can obviously tweak the alignment of this as well until I'm kind of happy with it. And then I'm going to create a third box as well, just so that we can put in a little bit for the actual author's name as well. So I'm going to just type in by, and then we would have the author's name. I'm just going to use author's name at the moment. Again, highlighting this and using the font that I had earlier chosen as well for my main headings as well. As I mentioned earlier, if you're using a platform perhaps other than InDesign, and even if you are using InDesign, you would prefer to use different font family, then that is totally acceptable on this occasion to do this. At the moment we are merely kind of practicing and getting used to working with images, columns and the elements and the different design features that we can basically draw out from them as well. So there we have it. We've got our main heading, subheading you would have here, and perhaps the author's name here. And one final step, because you may have noticed we don't actually at the moment have our final image within the article. So just to finish everything off, we're going to do that now. So I'm just going to use again that rectangle frame there to actually create the frame so that we can bring in this final picture. So again, I'm just going to create a frame box, and again you may decide that you need to tweak this. So I've got my main box in, and what I'm going to do is just bring it over, and for the moment I'm going to just kind of choose to perhaps drop it here. I may tweak this again because as you can see it's now overlapping my pull quote, so in a moment we may decide to change this ever so slightly. But for the moment we've got the box there, and now we're just going to add in the image. So we're going to go to place, and then we're just going to navigate to the correct file, which is Africa Child PNG. And again we can see that the images came up, you know, far too zoomed in, you know, for the actual box itself. So we'll need to go and fix that. So we do that by going up to Object, again going to Fit In, and again it will just be a case of going through the options and seeing which one works dependent on the size of box that you've actually managed to draw in. So I'm going to try Fit Frame to Content, or it could be Fit Content to Frame. Let's try Fit Content to Frame and see how that appears. Now again, it's lying on top of text as well as my pull quote, so I need to fix that. So selecting that again, using the selection tool, I'm going to go to Text Wrap, and again I can go through my main options here. So we've got the wrap around main bounding box, we could use another one, wrap around object and shape, and then we've got jump object. We don't really want that, that one's not the best. On this occasion what we will actually do is we'll just use this one, wrap around bounding box. And again, we can use the different options here that we've got here to top offset, and you can see that just kind of gives us a little bit of padding there for that. So I'm kind of fairly happy with how this part looks here. It's just now my pull quote that I'm not entirely happy with, so I could just change that ever so slightly if I wanted to. And there we go, I've kind of got it here, but again I maybe want to just tweak things again because we've kind of moved things ever so slightly. We could change it completely by moving it over here, which might work a little bit better for us here. And we'll just kind of zero everything off again to see how that's looking. Okay, obviously it is kind of up to yourself in terms of what you think kind of looks good, and we want you to experiment at this point, just to kind of get used to using different software and actual alignment as well. But that's how you put over, build all your pages from your cover page to your main two spreads for this template that we've chosen today. Now that we've completed all 3 pages, we can essentially preview it to see that we're happy, or we can double check it to see in case we need to make any kind of changes to it. So what I want to do, because I want to kind of view it without all my columns and guides shown, I'm going to just use the W so that it's nice and clean. I'll come up to the top first and kind of preview it. So I'm quite happy with the cover. We've completed the main tasks in terms of creating an image, importing that in using the place tool, and we've also included some text and aligned it appropriately also. And then from pages 2 and 3, we've again included some images, we've used headings, and we've also added in some drop caps to give it an extra feature as well. And then we've obviously got our main columns here as well with our text and image wrapped around, and we've used the pull quote feature as well. So it'll be interesting to see how everybody's got along. You can obviously add your own spin into the article as well. If you can improve it in some way, then I would love to see that also.